Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining. I just wanted to double check with you, Rob, really quick that we have everybody in the meeting. I was just kind of going through the list of names to make sure we have everybody here.
Well, we don't quite have everyone here. I see 28 attendees. We did have 41 register, so people will probably be joining us as we go along, but out of respect of time for everybody that was on time with us, and I know you have a lot to go through, I want to be mindful of that, and so I think you should feel free to go ahead.
Okay. All right. All right, I'll go ahead and get started. So, hello again, everybody. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with our 2017 year-end processing updates for Dynamics SL. Our agenda today, let me see, hold on one second. My screen is not refreshing again, so hold on. Sorry, Rob, I'm having a technical difficulty.
Yep, we had this. We were in practice mode earlier, everyone, which anytime we have a webinar, as organizers and panelists, we do practice to make sure everything goes as smoothly as possible. We did have a glitch. We're going through the same process we did before here, so Margo can unfreeze the PowerPoint.
All right, let's see if this works, okay?
Yep.
All right, so let's go ahead and get started. So the agenda today is we're going to be doing updates for payroll, accounts payable, and project controller. Now, currently, for the year-end updates, we only have updates for 2015, 2015 CU1, and CU2. For those of you who are on 2011 and prior, there are no year-end updates, although Plumline is providing an update for the 2011 customers, but it is coming with a price. So even if you can't get a year-end update, it's okay. There's a lot of valuable information for you today. Also, in the updates this year, there are no changes to the W-2 forms or the 1099 forms. It's only applying to the magnetic media. So if you're having to upload the W-2s electronically or your 1099s, that's where the year-end update will become useful for you. So I'm going to go ahead and cover the installation of these updates. First, you can download them from Customer Source. If you're having trouble accessing Customer Source, you can reach out to Rob or even myself. We can assist you with that. I have also already downloaded the update, so you could even drop me a note and I can just compress and send the file over to you. And then before you get started with doing any of your updates, it's highly recommended that you take a backup of your system database, your application database, and make a backup of your custom reports folder. And when you open the updates, there'll be 3 folders in there. One is for your version. There'll be 2015, there'll be one for CU1 and one for CU2. So make sure you choose the one that is applicable for you. You will run the update for your version. Now, for those that are on SL 2015 and 2015 CU1, there is also a SQL update that needs to be ran against all of your application databases. You'll review and update your Fed9 deduction. Your box 6 should be specified on the W-2 control tab in deduction maintenance, which I'll show you a little bit farther into the session. You'll need to review and update the TIN name, the recipient name too, and making sure that there are no special characters besides a hyphen or an ampersand in those 2 fields. In addition, we need to make sure that there's an @ sign before the 1099 last name. For example, Bob Smith, it would be Bob @Smith. Also on the 1099 tab, there is a FATCA checkbox, which is required if we're doing any foreign reporting. Okay, so in the year-end updates, it includes any changes to the year reports, any year-end resolutions, and the changes to the magnetic media files. You will apply your year-end updates after you have closed payroll for the year. So just remember that there's usually a couple of updates that come out this time of the year. One is the year-end update that updates our forms and the magnetic media files. The others are tax updates. Now, currently, we only have one tax update that has come out. There's no federal tax updates coming, I mean, at least at this point yet. There should be maybe in the next week or so. But I currently only have DC, South Carolina, New York, Maine, Minnesota, Illinois, and California. So, and I'm checking every day to see if there's some new updates out there. Now, these tax updates should get applied after you have your 2017 payroll closed. And then, as I stated, we look for new tax updates daily and keep you updated on that. Now, your tax reporting is done on a calendar year basis. Payroll and accounts payable are closed for the year, even if you're on fiscal period setups. You can always post back to prior periods, but make sure that you check your GL setup. On the GL setup, there is the posting tab and determines if you can post to prior periods and or fiscal years. So make sure you check that when you get ready to close in the event that you need to make some postings to the prior year. There's also a third-party product called Hard Close, and that will also lock you down for using any postings to prior years and prior fiscal periods. And your W-2 and 1099 balances are updated based on the check date, not the period to post. All right, let's talk about payroll. Close your payroll module after you have finished your last 2017 payroll. That is located in your general ledger closing screen. You will run your W-2 calculation process. We'll reconcile the 941 and unemployment reports. You'll print your W-2s to plain paper and review. Edit any W-2 information in the employee W-2 history screen, and you have to be in initialize mode. Print your W-2s. You can use plain paper, copy A, for your red copy to send in. Remember that SL does not print your W-3 form, but the totals are on the very last page of your W-2s, and that gives you the information to fill out your W-3 form. And then you would process your magnetic media. The recommended settings for Fed 9, the additional Medicare deduction. Now, Microsoft has supplied some documentation regarding this setting, but for most of you who have already been doing payroll for a long time, you already are aware of these changes. There's nothing new for you to make changes for this year. These are just screenshots for future reference. This is the Fed 9 additional Medicare deduction box. We make sure box 6 is checked here. And these are the fields that need to be updated on the exemptions and credits tab. If you do not have this information, I will be happy to send it over to you. Now, before you close your payroll module for the year, one, you make sure all of the data has been processed. You review your payroll batch register to ensure all of your batches have been released and posted. You reconcile your payroll account with payroll in GL. You can use your trial balance and your account distribution reports. Print your period end reports, your 941 tax worksheet, the unemployment tax worksheet, and your earnings and deductions report. You can also export these to a PDF so you can reference them at a later date if necessary. Closing. Now that you have completed all of your reports, you can now close your payroll for the year. The close option is in the general ledger closing screen. When you're closing, the new deductions are going to be created for 2018 during that process. And also make sure that you don't have any calculations in process when you close. So if you go and you look at your check preview, it should be blank. Okay, so if you have any data that's on there, I recommend you do a clear calculations process to get everything out of there before you close. W-2 payroll. All right, so we'll apply the year-end updates after payroll is closed. You calculate your W-2s. You're going to review your data, edit and correct the W-2s in the W-2 history screen, print W-2s, and generate your file. How to calculate your W-2s. You'll open up your W-2 calculation screen, choose the year that you're looking to calculate, which will be for 2017. Select the pay groups that you want to calculate and begin processing. You'll print your W-2s to a plain paper and review them. Now, if you use the plain paper copy format, it will print the boxes on the forms for you so you can see which boxes are being updated. You can use the employee W-2 history to verify and edit individual employees. And you have to be in initialize mode to make any of those changes. If you find that these fields are grayed out, you don't have enough permissions. Correcting your W-2s. One, we have to determine what the cause of the problem is. Are the federal wages incorrect? Identify the earnings types that are set up incorrectly. Identify missing exemptions. Fix the setup and recalculate the W-2s. And it's real important that we find the cause that's causing the out of balance issue, because we don't want the problem occurring again in 2018. Are your state wages incorrect? Identify the earnings types that are also set up incorrectly, any missing exemptions. Use initialize mode to correct the year-to-date subject wages in employee history so they're correct, and then you recalculate. If you use initialize mode to correct the state wages in the W-2 history screen, do not recalculate the W-2s. Is the tax amount correct? Determine the cause of the issue, federal, state, maybe local. Initialize the tax amount to be the correct tax amount. Now correct the setup issues to avoid issues in the following year. And be careful when you're using initialize mode because those changes are final. The W-2 calculation can be ran at any time and as many times as you need to. It is safe to run this even before you close the year, so you can kind of get an idea of what changes may need to be made. Inactive employees will be included. Specific box numbers, the W-2 control tab in the earnings maintenance or deduction maintenance to specify that the box letter or number is correct. If the year has been closed, you will have to use the deduction history screen to fix those box letters and numbers for the prior year. Protected, edited W-2 information in the W-2 calculation. Then you can select certain employees. If you've made changes to their deductions or to their year-to-date earnings, you can protect their W-2. So if you ran the W-2 calculation process again, it won't overwrite the changes that you've made. If it's missing your state employer ID, go to the deduction maintenance and click on the W-2 control tab. Check there for that ID. Same with the federal employer ID. This is held in the company maintenance screen. Okay, the W-2 forms. Plain paper copy A prints the red copies for your federal filing. If you use copy A, it must be printed in the red scannable 2-up format ink. I currently haven't had any issues with people printing the red copy and it not working with the IRS or SSA. You can use plain paper copy B, C, and D to print the copies for your employees, or use the 4-up form. And if you've never used the 4-up form, it puts all 4 of their W-2s on one sheet of paper, so it could save you some paper. The totals for your W-3 will be located on the last page. And you can order pre-printed W-2 forms from Deluxe, and Synergy can assist you with getting those forms. So just contact us if you need some help. Magnetic media filing. Use the W-2 magnetic media screen in Payroll. I believe this is for 250 or more employees, so I haven't checked to see if those rules have changed. So you'll populate the required fields. You have to have the calendar year, check the path in that file so you can easily locate it. It's usually called irs.tax. The transmitter PIN that's provided to you by SSA, and your contact information. And again, the company information comes from the company maintenance screen, but that information can be overridden if necessary. Sending your file to the Social Security Administration. You follow the instructions provided by the SSA for your transmittal, and the form is usable by a program called AccuWage, and you can upload your file to AccuWage and it will check to see if you have any errors, and there is a link here for you if you need it. And you can upload this file to AccuWage as many times as necessary till it comes back with no errors, and then you're good to go. All right, let's jump over to Project Controller. The year-end steps. One, we make sure all of our data has been entered for the current period. We make sure all of the modules have been closed for the current period in the GL closing screen. Now, with that being said, the typical rule of thumb is you always close your financial modules before you close Project Controller. This ensures all of the data has been pushed over to the projects as necessary. Review time cards. Any time cards that are not approved will post in the new period regardless of what is in week maintenance. So make sure you go out there and look at your time cards and get them posted. And then you'll need to complete these processes. Your labor commitment load, our GL labor posting, pay labor interface if you're using, Payroll. Review all of your expense reports. Make sure you run financial transaction transfer. Now, most of you who are using projects already have FTT running automatically, but it's totally safe to run it again, just so the system will go out and see if there's anything else it needs to go out and pick up for you and bring it over. Complete your revenue recognition and allocator. Run your billings transaction load. Complete your invoices, and then you can close the period. Now, when you go to close the period, depending on if you're doing, if it's fiscal or calendar year, it will begin this year-end close for you, because you can close it for the period or for the year. This is located in Project Controller, not in the general ledger. During the process, it checks that all modules, don't have any open batches and everything's been posted and closed. Any project charge entry batches, make sure that they're posted. And it will stop the closing process if it finds any exceptions. And many of you who run through Project Controller are familiar with errors that you get when you're trying to close. Unposted batches exist, unposted allocations exist. But when it comes to time cards, it typically only gives us a warning that there are unposted time cards, and it will let you go ahead and close with those. All right, so when the year-end close process takes place, the balance forward amounts are calculated for the projects that are set to balance forward, and their summary records are written for the new year. Now, for those who have lots of projects, the closing process could possibly take up to a couple hours or more. Before you run the closing process, review your project maintenance records for open projects. Any projects that are balanced forward, make sure the balance forward at year end is also selected. So when you have this option checked, the year-end total of a project's budget and actuals are rolled forward as the beginning balance into the next year. Now, many of you, if you have multi-year projects, you would have this box checked. But if you have projects that are budgeted each year, you would not have that box checked. Now, if you close the period and you find that you have projects that should have been marked as balance forward at year end and they weren't checked, that's okay. We can still fix that. Just go into the projects, check the box, then go into Project Controller Setup and change the period back to 12 of 2017 and save it. Then you would run the close year process again, and it will go out there and pick up those projects and create those balances and roll them forward for you. Okay, so once the period in the year has been closed, you should go into the fiscal period maintenance screen that's located in Project Controller and make sure the periods have been set up. Also go into time and expense, the week maintenance screen, and make sure your weeks have been set up there as well. All right, we're going to go ahead and jump over to accounts payable. All right. So the first thing you'll do is you're going to review your AP aging. You're going to go out there, you're going to look for open documents and review. Maybe you've got a bunch of debit adjustments and things like out there. You want to clean your aging up for year end. You're going to print your AP batch register to make sure all of your batches have been released and posted to the GL. And you can go into the GL post-transaction screen and make sure your batches have been closed there too. Print your vendor trial balance and AP period sensitive age reports. Both of those reports should tie to the GL. Make sure all of your reoccurring entries have been completed. Print the check register and the aged AP reports. I put a note in here to export to PDF. I think it's great to have a year-end closing file, and any of those year-end reports, export them to a PDF and put them in there. So if in the event you need to go back and reference back to those reports sometime next year while you're doing more reconciling, they're there for you. You can close the year, and then we're going to close the 1099 calendar year. All right, so there is a screen called the 1099 calendar year control. This screen, you can keep 2 years of 1099 data. If this is not into 2017 where it says the next year, you cannot print checks in 2018. You'll typically get an error, a system message 532, and it tells you that it needs to be in an open year. So what you will do is you will purge the oldest year. This doesn't purge any voucher information or any payment information. It just doesn't allow us to print 1099s for 2016, which we should be done with that by now. So you're going to want it to show as 2017 and 2018. Now, when you go to do your 1099s and you run your 1099 preview, it's going to show you all of your vendors that are 1099 vendors, regardless if they have any balances on their account or not. The 1099 forms will only print those vendors who meet the minimum, which is $600. The 1099 amounts are based off of check dates and not periods to post. And to update any of the vendor balances in the vendor maintenance screen, you will need to be in initialize mode. And you can also run an option in the AP integrity that rebuilds the 1099 balances. Now, a common issue I have is the balances aren't being reflected correctly. You need to go back and look at the voucher itself, because in the detail section, if there wasn't a box number listed there, it's not going to pick it up and calculate it onto that 1099 balance. Also for 1099 magnetic media, This usually only needs to be ran if you have over 250 vendors. Okay, so when you're printing your 1099s, you can print them as many times as you need to. The system does not print your 1096 form, but on the very last page, it gives you the totals to fill out your 1096. Now, when you're printing your 1099s, I recommend that you only print a couple vendors at a time and look at the forms to see if they line up okay, because everybody's printers are a little bit different. So the totals could be skewed in some of your boxes. So instead of wasting all of your 1099 forms, just print a couple vendors and take a look. And if you want to print your 1099s, at least look at the forms before you close the year, just click the next 1099 year and it should pick this up for you. Now, if you've reviewed your 1099 preview, you've determined that you have totals that are incorrect. Again, you have to be in initialize mode to fix those balances. All of the box number boxes should light up black for you if you have access rights to those. If not, we need to make an adjustment to your rights. So maybe you have a system admin on site that can make those changes. If not, just ask us. We can help you out with that. Now, if you're trying to double check those balances for those vendors, go print your check register report for that vendor for the year. That will tell you what you truly paid them. And then you can update those balances as needed. All right, so if you're going to generate a magnetic file, you can generate the file for either the 2 years. You put in the year at the top of the screen there. Note where your output file is going to be sent. On the transmitter tab, the control code number is given to you from the IRS. You'll enter your contact information. And again, the company information comes from the company maintenance screen, but can be overridden if necessary. And then once that information is complete, you can hit begin processing and it will create your file for you. Now, if you happen to close the 1099 year too many times, a SQL update would need to be done in order to get those years back to being 2017 and 2018, and we can assist you with that. That's a very common issue we have. Also, the system 532, you cannot print without it being in a current year. So if you're trying to do 2018 and you haven't closed your calendar year control, it will error on you. Also, if the 1099 balances are wrong, you can run the rebuild 1099 history process to see if it will get those balances and get them corrected for you. And then I got a few tips and tricks here for you. If your AP period sensitive aged AP does not match the GL, I would recommend that you would run, like if it doesn't match in December, run it for November. Do they balance in November? If not, go back and look at October. See if they balanced in October. You'll typically find the document that's causing you your problem. If it's never matched, then we probably should, maybe have a deeper discussion about that. Also, when it comes to closing, it doesn't matter if it's period closing or year-end closing. It's good to run your batch registers to see if you have any batches that have not been finished. This is a great way for you to keep your data nice and clean. So I've attached a couple screenshots. One is the AP batch register, and you can run that batch register in any module. So AR, GL, even inventory. And it's basically looking for a batch status that is not posted, completed, voided, or deleted. Same thing with Quick Query. In Quick Query, in the financial section under General Ledger is batches. Well, here I created a custom Quick Query. I said, show me everything that's not posted, completed, voided, or deleted. It shows me the company ID, the period to post, the module, the batch number, and the status of the batch. So you can go back and address those batches as necessary. And this is a great way, even when you're just doing month end, check to see if you have anything sitting out there. Also, for 1099 printing. Again, not all printers are the same. So if you were to print a 1099, let's say for 2 to 4 vendors, and let it print to plain paper, you can actually hold that up to the form, like hold it up to the light, and you can see how the boxes are going to be filled in on your forms. This will be a great way for you to find out if you're going to have any printing errors, so you're not wasting your 1099 forms. And we commonly have to make some little adjustments to the form for you. Just let us know. It's a pretty quick fix. Also, printing all of your closing reports. Period-sensitive reports, aged APs, trial balances, detailed GL, vendor trial balance. I would print all of those to a PDF and store those in a year-end folder. Posting to prior years. In the GL setup on the Posting Options tab, I wanted to show you a screenshot that there's checkboxes to prevent you from posting to prior fiscal years and allow posting to closed fiscal periods. So check this if you're having any problems with making any entries to 2017. And for the controllers, you can temporarily turn these on and turn these off if you have staff that need to get a couple last-minute batches in and you've already closed. And then you could turn the options back on to block them from doing that. Also, for new 1099 vendors, if you have a vendor that becomes a 1099 vendor in the middle of the year, I recommend that you run a check register for that vendor for the year to see how much you have actually paid that vendor. So then when you change them to be 1099 and you're entering their tax information, you can populate the box number with the total that you've paid them year to date, because any future payments made will go on top of that balance, and you probably won't have any out of balance issues come the end of the year. So maybe as a rule of thumb, if it's a new 1099 vendor, go print the check register for them and just do it all at the same time. And again, if you guys have any issues with any year-end processing or reconciling issues, you can contact us at support@synergybusiness.com. And if you want a copy of this PowerPoint today, you can just drop me an email. I think I'll go ahead and just send it out to all of you anyway. And Rob, if there's any questions going on right now, we could go ahead and open this up and see if anybody has any questions for me.
Okay, can you hear me, Margo?
I can hear you just fine, Rob. Thank you.
Okay, excellent. Just unmuted here. We don't have any questions coming in right now, but also wanted to let everyone know that I did record the webinar as well, and so we should have those audio files as well. Thank you, Margo, for that excellent presentation. We will open it up to Q&A, and so if you have any questions, please feel free to submit them. They will be the first to be addressed. And as a reminder, you can use that questions pane. If you want to ask the question live, raise your hand. I'll unmute you so you can speak freely. And for those of you who don't want to participate in the Q&A session, I want to thank you for attending today's webinar. Once you leave the webinar, you will receive a survey on the presentation, and we'd really appreciate it if you take time to complete it and provide any feedback. So with that going, let me just take a look here and see what we have. Do you see the questions, Margo?
I don't see anything, you guys.
Okay, that I will read them to you. I wasn't sure if you as a panelist had the question pane available to you. If you look at your control panel, you might have that. So the first question we have is from Josh, and we do not use SL for payroll, W-2, or 1099. Do we need to run these updates?
No. No, you don't need to update them because if you're not doing any 1099s, that's all those year-end updates covers for you. And if you're not doing payroll, you won't need any tax updates, of course.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for the response from Josh is letting you know thank you.
Okay.
Any other ones? Okay. I do not believe we update, but do we print 1099s? Is that okay?
Oh, okay. So I'm thinking you're referring to you don't do the magnetic media, but yes, you can print your 1099s, and then you submit the forms to the IRS when you're completed. Am I understanding that question correctly?
Let me see. Rachel, was that the answer to your question? They do not do updates, but we do print 1099s. Is that okay?
Okay. Yes, that's fine.
Okay. Any other questions out there?
And just to reiterate out there, so for those of you who are not on 2015 versions, unless you're doing the electronic update, there are no updates for you guys. So